They returned his fiancée to him in pieces, so he took me, her identical twin. Except we weren't twins, we were sisters, and he knew. Welcome to Amy's Romance Stories. If you're new here, comment below where you're watching from, and hit subscribe to join our growing family of Mafia romance story lovers. Charlotte Anderson had lived 25 years believing she understood her own story. Devout daughter of a devout mother, translator of ancient religious texts, a woman who found God in the silence of library archives and the whisper of turning pages. She had never questioned why her mother chose Boston, why they lived so quietly, why Ismaria Anderson would sometimes wake screaming from nightmares she refused to name. Some wounds, Charlotte learned early, were too sacred to probe. The call came on a Tuesday. A rare manuscript had been discovered in Palermo Cathedral, a 14th century theological text that needed immediate translation. Charlotte's professor recommended her. The Vatican was paying. 3 weeks in Sicily, all expenses covered. Her mother had been dead for 6 months. Charlotte said yes because grief had made her reckless, because she needed to escape the apartment that still smelled like Ismaria's lavender soap, because maybe God was calling her somewhere new. She arrived in Palermo on a morning so bright it hurt. The cathedral rose against the sky like a prayer made of stone, and Charlotte felt something shift in her chest. Hope, maybe. Or the beginning of the end of her old life. She wouldn't know which until much later. The manuscript was waiting in a temperature-controlled room beneath the cathedral. Charlotte spent 3 hours photographing pages, making notes, losing herself in the familiar rhythm of work. When she finally emerged, the cathedral was nearly empty. Afternoon light slanted through stained glass, painting the floor in shattered rainbows. That's when she saw him. He stood near the altar, hands in the pockets of an expensive black coat, watching her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. Tall, dark-haired, beautiful in a way that seemed deliberately dangerous. Charlotte's first instinct was to look away. Her second was to run. She did neither. He walked toward her with the unhurried confidence of a man who had never been denied anything. When he stopped close enough that she could see the exact shade of his eyes, storm gray and unreadable, he spoke her name like he'd been practicing it. Charlotte Anderson. Her throat tightened. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" His smile was cold. "No, but I know you. I know your mother was Ismaria Anderson, formerly Ismaria De Luca before she fled to America 26 years ago. I know she told you your father was a mistake she'd rather forget. I know you've spent your whole life believing you were nobody special. Just a quiet girl who talks to dead languages because the living world scares you." Charlotte's hands were shaking. "Who are you?" "Simone Rinaldi. And you need to come with me right now, or in approximately 10 minutes, you're going to die in this cathedral." The words were so absurd Charlotte almost laughed. Except his face held no humor. Except somewhere outside, she heard car doors slamming, voices raised in rapid Italian. Except the 3 other visitors in the cathedral suddenly looked wrong. Their postures too alert, hands drifting toward concealed weapons. Simone's hand closed around her wrist. Not rough, but absolute. Through the sacristy. "Now." "What? No, I don't. You can't just—" "Your father is Tiberius Moretti. Does that name mean anything to you?" Charlotte shook her head, mute with confusion and rising terror. "It should. He runs the most powerful crime family in Sicily. Your mother was his mistress before she got smart and disappeared. She hid you well. But Tiberius finally found out you exist, and the men walking into this cathedral right now are here to either bring you to him or make sure you never become leverage against him. Either way, you don't want to meet them? This is insane. You're insane. I'm a translator. I'm nobody." The first gunshot shattered a window. Glass rained down like violent snow. Charlotte screamed. Simone pulled her hard toward a wooden door she'd barely noticed, concealed behind a statue of St. Agatha. The door opened onto steep stone steps descending into darkness. Move. She moved. The catacombs beneath Palermo Cathedral were a maze of bones and shadows, ancient burial chambers that smelled of earth and time. Simone navigated them like he'd memorized the path, one hand gripping Charlotte's, the other holding a phone that lit their way in ghostly blue. Behind them, shouts echoed, footsteps on stone. More gunfire, distant but getting closer. Charlotte's mind was white noise. This wasn't real. This was a panic attack, a psychotic break, something explainable. She was not running through tunnels full of dead monks, while a stranger who knew her mother's maiden name pulled her toward an unknown fate. Here. Simone stopped at a rusted metal gate, produced a key that shouldn't have fit but did. Beyond was a passageway that climbed upward. At the top, blinding sunlight and the sound of helicopter blades. "Wait," Charlotte gasped. "Please, I can't just—" Simone turned to face her fully for the first time since they'd fled. His expression was harder than the stone walls surrounding them. "You have two choices, Charlotte. Come with me and live. Stay here and die. I don't particularly care which you pick, but decide fast because I'm leaving in 30 seconds regardless. Why are you helping me?" Something flickered in those gray eyes. Something that might have been pain or anger or both. "I'm not helping you. I'm taking you. There's a difference." Before Charlotte could process that, a massive figure emerged from the helicopter. A man who looked carved from violence, scarred face impassive, built like he could break Charlotte in half without effort. He spoke in a language Charlotte didn't recognize, all harsh consonants. Simone answered in the same tongue, then switched back to English. "Charlotte, meet Dragon. He doesn't talk much, but he's very good at keeping people alive. Get in the helicopter." "No." Simone raised an eyebrow. "No? 25 years of obedience, of praying and following rules and being good, crystallized into that single word." Charlotte planted her feet. "I don't know you. I don't know what's happening. I'm not going anywhere until you explain." For one horrible moment, she thought Simone might simply have Dragan throw her into the helicopter. Then he laughed, short and bitter. "You want the truth? Fine. Your father is a monster who spent 3 decades building an empire on blood and suffering. My father spent 3 decades fighting him, and it destroyed our family. You are Tiberius Moretti's hidden daughter, which makes you a weapon I intend to use. You're coming to my home, where you'll stay until I decide you're more valuable returned to your father in pieces or kept intact as insurance. That honest enough for you?" Charlotte's vision tunneled. The world tilted. Dragan caught her before she hit the ground, lifted her like she weighed nothing, and placed her in the helicopter with surprising gentleness. She didn't remember the flight. Shock wrapped her in cotton wool, muffling everything. By the time awareness returned, they were descending toward an island, a single villa rising from the center like a beautiful fortress. Lake Como spread around them in impossible blue. The villa was a contradiction. Museum-quality art on the walls, marble floors that echoed, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the water, and bars, subtle but unmistakable, on every window. Guards stationed at every exit. A prison dressed as a palace. Before we continue, let me ask you something, and I really want you to think about this. What would you do in Charlotte's situation? Would you fight? Comply? Try to escape? Drop your answer in the comments because honestly, I need to know if you're braver than our girl here. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, you're essentially telling me you don't care how this ends, and that's fine. I guess. I'll just be here crafting this entire story alone, wondering if anyone actually wants to know whether Charlotte survives. No pressure. Simone showed Charlotte to her room personally. 3rd floor, corner view, decorated in soft creams and golds, luxurious enough to be insulting. Your prison cell, he said without irony. Bathroom through there. Clothes in the closet should fit. Dinner is at 8. Don't be late. And if I refuse to come to dinner, then you'll be hungry. His hand was on the door handle. I'm not going to starve you, Charlotte, or hurt you, or any of the dramatic things you're probably imagining. You're valuable. I protect valuable things. I'm not a thing. Simone paused, looked back at her. No, you're a Moretti. Which is worse? He left. The lock clicked. Charlotte stood in the center of the beautiful room and shook apart. She cried until her throat was raw, prayed until the words lost meaning, searched every inch of the space for escape routes she knew she wouldn't find. The windows were sealed. The door, locked from outside. Her phone was gone, taken sometime during the chaos. She was completely, utterly alone. Except she wasn't. At 7:30 there was a knock. The lock turned. Dragan stood in the hallway, expression unreadable. Dinner, he said in heavily accented English, the first word she'd heard him speak to her directly. I'm not hungry. He shrugged. Boss said you'd say that. Also said to tell you if you don't come down, he'll eat alone, and you'll spend the next week wondering what he's planning. Your choice. Charlotte wanted to refuse out of spite, but curiosity and strategy won. She needed information, needed to understand her captor if she had any hope of escape. The dining room could have seated 20 but was set for 2. Simone sat at the head of an absurdly long table, wineglass in hand, still wearing that expensive black coat. He gestured to the chair beside him, not the far end. Charlotte sat, back straight, hands folded. She would not give him the satisfaction of seeing her fear. Dinner was served by silent staff who appeared and vanished like ghosts. Pasta, simple and perfect. Fresh bread. Wine Charlotte didn't touch. Simone ate with the casual elegance of someone who'd grown up with wealth. Tell me about my father, Charlotte said finally. Simone set down his fork. What do you want to know? Everything you think I should hate him for. So he did. Tiberius Moretti's empire, built on drug trafficking and extortion. The murders, dozens of them, ordered with the same ease most people ordered coffee. The politicians bought, the judges owned, the families destroyed. Simone recited it all in a flat, factual tone that made it worse somehow. Charlotte listened, nauseous. When he finished, she said, And your family? What do the Rinaldis do? Charity work? Simone's smile was sharp. We're killers too, if that's what you're asking. The difference is I'm honest about what I am. There is no difference. You're trying to make me complicit in my own captivity by convincing me I'm the daughter of a devil, so whatever you do to me is justified. But kidnapping is kidnapping regardless of who my father is. Smart girl. Simone raised his wineglass in mock salute. You're right. I'm a hypocrite. Does that change your situation? Charlotte had no answer. The dinners became routine. Every evening. The same table, the same proximity. Simone talked. Sometimes about the family war, sometimes about art or philosophy or theology. He'd clearly researched her, knew about her work, asked intelligent questions about medieval manuscripts and translation theory. It was disorienting, being treated like an intellectual equal by her jailer. Days blurred together. Charlotte was allowed to walk the island under Dragan's supervision. The enforcer was strange company, silent for hours, then occasionally offering observations in his rough English. Nice day. Storm coming. Birds migrating early. Once, Charlotte asked him, Why do you work for Simone? Dragan was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, I owe him my life. That's all. During the second week, Simone taught her to shoot. The gun was cold and heavy in Charlotte's hands. She hated it instinctively. Why? She asked. Because if someone breaches this island, I might not reach you in time. You should be able to protect yourself. From who? Your enemies? Or you? Simone stepped behind her, adjusted her grip, his hands over hers. His breath was warm against her ear. That's the question, isn't it? Charlotte's pulse jumped. She jerked away. Don't. Don't what? Whatever you're doing. The concerned captor routine. I'm not fooled. Good. Simone's eyes were unreadable. You shouldn't be. But the proximity was doing something neither of them acknowledged. Charlotte caught him watching her during dinners, his gaze lingering on her face with an intensity that made her skin feel too tight. She found herself noticing details, the line of his jaw, the rare moments when his expression softened, the way his hands moved when he talked. She hated herself for noticing. The third week, everything changed. Charlotte woke at 2 a.m. to sounds from the hallway. Footsteps, a door opening and closing. She crept to her own door, pressed her ear against it. Silence. Then, muffled through walls, a sound that made her chest ache. Someone crying with the kind of broken, hopeless grief that came from a wound that wouldn't heal. She knew, somehow, it was Simone. The next morning at breakfast, he looked hollowed out. Charlotte, against every instinct of self-preservation, asked, "Are you all right?" "Fine. You're a terrible liar." Simone's laugh was acid. "And you're too curious for your own good. There's a locked room down the hall from mine. You go there at night." His expression shuddered completely. "That's none of your concern. If I'm going to be kept here indefinitely, everything about you is my concern." "Why?" His voice was dangerous. "Planning to psychoanalyze your captor? Find his weakness and exploit it? Maybe. Or maybe I'm just tired of being treated like an object in someone else's revenge plot, and I want to understand who you actually are beneath the expensive coat and the cruelty." Simone stood abruptly. "You want to know who I am? Fine." He led her through the villa, up the stairs to the locked room, produced a key with shaking hands. The door swung open. Charlotte stepped inside and stopped breathing. It was a shrine, a museum, a mausoleum for someone who wasn't buried there. Women's clothing arranged carefully on hangers, jewelry displayed like precious relics, books, dozens of them, bookmarked and annotated, photographs covering every wall, all of the same woman, beautiful, dark-haired, elegant. And her face, Charlotte's face, the same eyes, the same bone structure, the same small scar above the left eyebrow. Charlotte's knees buckled. She grabbed the doorframe for support. "Who is she?" Simone's voice was destroyed. "Vittoria. My fiancée. 3 years ago, your father's people took her. When they were done, they sent her back to me in pieces. The medical examiner said it took her 4 days to die. Oh, God. I couldn't even have an open casket." Simone stared at the photographs like they were religious icons. I couldn't see her face one last time because there wasn't enough left to reconstruct. Charlotte was shaking. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." "Don't." He turned to her, and his eyes were full of something terrible. "Don't apologize for your father's sins. Just understand why you're here. Because I look like her." "Yes." Charlotte walked deeper into the room, pulled by horrified fascination. The resemblance wasn't just striking, it was impossible. She picked up a framed photo, studied Vittoria's face. It was like looking at a different version of herself, one who'd grown up in this world of violence and beauty. Then she saw the wooden box on the desk. Ornate, personal. Her hands moved before her brain caught up, opening it. Inside, a letter. Unfinished, the ink faded. Addressed to "My unknown sister." Charlotte's vision blurred. She read Vittoria's handwriting, elegant and hopeful. Read about a sister she'd never met, never known existed. Read about Tiberius Moretti confessing to his daughter about another daughter, born from an affair with an American woman named Ismeria. Read about Vittoria's dreams of finding Charlotte someday, of two sisters escaping their father's world together. The letter ended mid-sentence, as if Vittoria had been interrupted and never returned to finish it. Charlotte's hands were numb. She was my sister. Half-sister, Simone said quietly. Same father, different mothers. You knew. Charlotte turned on him, the letter crumpling in her fist. When you took me, you already knew we were sisters. Yes. How? After Vittoria died, I became obsessed with understanding every detail of her life. I hired investigators, researchers. They found records of Tiberius's affairs. Found your mother. Found you. Charlotte wanted to scream. Instead, her voice came out deadly quiet. So this entire thing, keeping me here, the dinners, the conversations, all of it, you've been using me as… what? A replacement? A way to keep her ghost alive? Simone met her eyes. Yes, you're sick. I know, I should hate you. You should. Charlotte's fury was incandescent. She threw the letter at him, it fluttered uselessly to the floor, and advanced until they were inches apart. I had a sister. I had a sister who wanted to find me, who dreamed about us being free, and she died before I ever knew she existed. And you took that from me. You took the chance to even grieve her properly, because every time I look at you, I see the man who's been using her death to justify torturing me. I'm not torturing you. Yes, you are. Every dinner where you look at me and see her. Every conversation where you treat me like a person, then remind me I'm a prisoner. Every moment you make me feel something for you, then pull away. You're torturing both of us and calling it justice. Simone's control finally cracked. You want the truth, Charlotte? Here it is. At first, you were just her shadow, a way to hurt your father, a way to keep Vittoria close. But somewhere in the last 3 weeks, you stopped being her ghost and became you. And it's killing me because I'm not supposed to care about Tiberius Moretti's daughter. I'm supposed to use you and discard you and feel nothing. But I look at you now and I don't see her anymore. I see you. And I don't know what to do with that. The air between them was explosive. Charlotte's voice shook. What are you saying? I'm saying I've wanted you since the moment I saw you in that cathedral, and it had nothing to do with revenge or Vittoria or any of it. I'm saying you're right. I am sick. Because I kidnapped you and kept you prisoner, and somewhere in the middle of that I fell. He stopped himself. Fell what? You know what. Say it. Simone grabbed her face, not rough but desperate, and kissed her. For one shocked heartbeat, Charlotte froze. Then she kissed him back with 3 weeks of rage and fear and unwanted desire, her hands fisting in his coat, pulling him closer even as her mind screamed that this was wrong, this was her captor. This was the man who'd stolen her life. When they broke apart, both were shaking. Charlotte slapped him. The crack echoed in the shrine to his dead fiancée. Simone didn't move, didn't react. Just stood there with her handprint blooming red on his cheek. This is wrong, Charlotte whispered. I know. I should hate you. I know. But I don't. Her voice broke. Why don't I? Because you're as trapped as I am, just in a different cage. Okay, honestly, if you're still not subscribed after that, I don't know what to tell you. This story is about to get so much more complicated, and if you miss what happens next because you couldn't be bothered to click a button, that's on you. I'll be here, telling this story to the void, wondering why I bother. Charlotte fled the room, back to her beautiful prison, and locked herself in. She didn't come to dinner that night, or breakfast the next morning. Simone didn't force her. Dragan left trays outside her door that went untouched. On the 3rd day, Charlotte finally emerged. She found Simone in his study, surrounded by papers and looking like he hadn't slept. I need to know something, she said. He looked up, wary. If you let me go right now, would I be safe? Simone was quiet for a long moment. No. Tiberius knows you exist now. Someone will find you. So I'm trapped here regardless. Not just by you, but by my own blood. Yes. Charlotte laughed, high and brittle. My sister wanted us to be free. Instead, we're both prisoners. She died in her cage, and I'm living in mine. Charlotte, don't. She held up a hand. I'm not forgiving you. I'm not okay with any of this. But I can't spend every day fighting reality. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me everything about Vittoria, everything about my father, everything about this war. And I'm going to decide for myself who I am and where I stand. No more lies, no more games. Agreed? Simone stood, walked around the desk until they were face to face. Agreed. But I need something from you too. What? Stop looking at me like you're waiting for me to turn into a monster. I'm not going to hurt you. You already did. The day you took me. I know. And if you want to spend the rest of your time here hating me for it, that's your right. But if there's any chance, any possibility, that this could become something other than captor and captive, I need you to see me. Really see me. Not as Simone Rinaldi, crime family heir. Not as the man who kidnapped you. Just me. Charlotte's heart was a traitor. And who are you? Just you. Someone who's been dead inside for 3 years trying to figure out how to feel alive again. Someone who's terrified that the only person who makes him feel anything is the one person he can never deserve. The confession hung between them. Charlotte took a shaky breath. I can't promise you anything. I'm not asking you to, but I'll stay. Not because I'm your prisoner, because I choose to. For now. For now, Simone echoed. I'll take it. And if you're not subscribed by now, after everything you've just witnessed, I genuinely don't understand what you're doing here. But sure, keep freeloading on this emotional devastation I'm serving. It's fine. I'm fine. Outside, storm clouds gathered over Lake Como. Inside the villa, 2 people damaged by the same violence circled each other, trying to figure out if healing could grow from the same soil as hurt, if love could bloom in a prison, if 2 cages could become one door, opened from the inside by choice instead of force. The answer was coming. But first, there would be blood. The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered by a man in a suit so expensive it screamed neutrality. The kind of courier who worked for people too powerful to take sides. Dragan accepted it at the dock, brought it to Simone without opening it, and Charlotte watched her captor's face drain of color as he read. What is it? She asked. Your father wants to meet you. Charlotte's stomach dropped. When? 3 days from now. Venice, the Basilica di San Marco, public location, witnesses everywhere. He's proposing a truce long enough for a conversation. Simone's jaw was tight. It's a trap. Maybe. Charlotte surprised herself by moving closer, reading over his shoulder. Or maybe he's dying and wants to meet his daughter before the end. The letter was handwritten, the script shaky. Tiberius Moretti's words were simple, almost gentle. He didn't ask for forgiveness, didn't make demands. He just wanted to see Charlotte's face once before he left this world. He promised no violence, no tricks, just a father and a daughter, meeting for the first and last time. You can't seriously be considering this, Simone said. I am? He'll use you. Leverage, propaganda, a hostage. Who knows? This is what men like Tiberius do. Men like him, Charlotte repeated. You mean men like you? The hit landed. Simone flinched. That's not fair. Isn't it? You took me for exactly the same reasons you're afraid he wants me. The only difference is, you got to me first. Simone was quiet for a long moment. If I let you go, if I take you to meet him, there's a chance you won't come back. He could have an army waiting. I could lose you." The word "you" hung in the air between them, weighted with everything they hadn't said. "Then come with me," Charlotte said. "You and Dragon. Be my protection. If it's a trap, we leave. But if it's real, if he's really dying, I need to do this. I need to look my father in the eye and decide for myself who he is." Simone studied her face like he was memorizing it. "You've changed." "Have I? When I took you, you were terrified. Now you're giving me orders." Charlotte smiled without humor. "You kidnapped me and called it protection. I learned from the best." 3 days later, they took a boat to the mainland, then a car to Venice. Charlotte had never seen the city before. It rose from the water like a fever dream, beautiful and sinking, drowning slowly in its own history. Appropriate, she thought, for a meeting between broken families built on violence. The Basilica di San Marco was crowded with tourists, cameras flashing, guides lecturing in a dozen languages, neutral ground. Simone kept one hand on Charlotte's lower back, possessive and protective. Dragan followed 3 steps behind, his massive frame clearing a path through the crowd. Tiberius Moretti was waiting in a side chapel, and Charlotte's first thought was, "This man is already dead. He just hasn't stopped moving yet." He sat in a wheelchair, oxygen tank beside him, skin gray and papery. But his eyes, when they found Charlotte's face, were alive, sharp. Wet with tears, he didn't bother hiding. "Dio mio," he whispered. "It's Maria's daughter. You look just like her." Charlotte couldn't speak. This was her father. This dying stranger who'd built an empire on suffering, who'd loved her mother enough to let her go, who'd had another daughter murdered in his name. Tiberius gestured weakly. "Sit, please." "I don't have much time," the doctors say. "Weeks, maybe days." Simone stood rigid beside Charlotte's chair. "Say what you came to say, old man." Tiberius's gaze shifted to him. "Simone Rinaldi, you've grown into your father's rage well. Careful." "No, no, it's a compliment. Your father was a formidable enemy. He died hating me, I assume. Cancer took him 2 years ago, but yes, hating you was probably his last conscious thought." "Good." Tiberius smiled faintly. "A man should die true to his convictions. Which brings me to why I asked to meet. Charlotte, I need you to know something. I never knew about you until 6 months ago, after Ismaria died and her lawyer sent me a letter. If I had known, I would have protected you both better. Sent more money. Made sure you wanted for nothing." "You sent money?" Charlotte's voice was small. "Every month for 26 years, anonymous deposits to your mother's account. I loved Ismaria. She was too good for my world, so I let her leave. It was the only decent thing I've ever done." Simone made a dismissive sound. "Touching. Is that all? A deathbed confession to clear your conscience?" "No." Tiberius reached into his coat, pulled out a folder with shaking hands. "I'm here to tell you the truth about Vittoria." The temperature in the chapel dropped 10 degrees. Simone went very still. "Don't say her name. I didn't kill her. You're a liar. I'm dying. What do I gain from lying now?" Tiberius opened the folder, spread documents across his lap. "The night Vittoria was taken, I was in Rome. I was meeting with prosecutors, negotiating amnesty for both our families. I have hospital records. I had a heart episode during the meeting. Security footage, witness statements from government officials. It's all here. I couldn't have orchestrated Vittoria's kidnapping because I was under federal surveillance, trying to end this war." Charlotte watched Simone's face. He looked like a man watching his entire reality collapse. "You're lying," Simone repeated, but his voice was hollow. "Check the documents." Tiberius pushed the folder toward him. "I know you have resources. Verify it all. You'll find I'm telling the truth." If you didn't kill her? Simone's words came out strangled. Then who did? Someone who wanted to make sure our families never made peace. Someone who profited from the war continuing. Tiberius looked at Simone with something almost like pity. Someone in your own house, son. The boat ride back to the island was silent. Simone stared at the folder like it contained a bomb. Dragan piloted them across the water, his scarred face unreadable. Charlotte sat between two men processing different versions of grief. At the villa, Simone disappeared into his study. Charlotte heard him making calls, rapid Italian, his voice sharp with desperation. Verifying Tiberius's claims, searching for cracks in the story. She found Dragan on the terrace, watching the sunset paint the lake in blood colors. "Did you know?" she asked quietly. "About Tiberius being innocent?" Dragan's silence was answer enough. "Oh God. You did?" "I suspected." His voice was gravel. "Things didn't add up. But I had no proof." "And you said nothing?" "I am bound by oaths you cannot understand." Charlotte's hands trembled. "Who killed her, Dragan? Who killed Vittoria?" The big man's shoulders sagged. He suddenly looked ancient. "You should go inside." "No. Tell me." "I cannot. Then I'll find out myself." But she didn't have to. 3 hours later, Simone emerged from his study looking like he'd aged a decade. He'd verified everything. Tiberius's alibi was airtight, which meant 3 years of grief, 3 years of revenge, 3 years of becoming a monster, all of it built on a lie. Charlotte found him in Vittoria's room, surrounded by her ghost. "Talk to me," she said. "My father ordered the hit." Simone's voice was dead. "I've been going through his old financial records, encrypted communications I never had reason to question before. He paid for Vittoria's kidnapping. He had her killed and made it look like the Morettis. All to ensure I'd never make peace, never stop the war. The family business was too profitable. Peace would have cost him millions. Oh, Simone. And Dragan knew." Simone looked up, eyes red. "My father's most loyal man. He knew, and he said nothing while I destroyed myself." As if summoned, Dragan appeared in the doorway. The two men stared at each other across a chasm of betrayal. "It was your father's order," Dragan said finally. "I was sworn to obey." "She was innocent." Simone's voice cracked. "Vittoria was innocent, and you killed her? I have carried this sin for 3 years." Dragan stepped into the room, and Charlotte saw tears on that scarred face. "Every day I have watched you suffer. Every day I have wanted to confess. But I was bound by blood oath to your father, sworn to silence until death. He only died 2 years ago. Even then, I could not find the words." Simone pulled a gun from his desk drawer. Charlotte's heart stopped. "Do it," Dragan said calmly. "I have earned this death." Simone raised the weapon, hands shaking. "You took everything from me." "I know. I trusted you." "I know." The standoff stretched, agonizing. Charlotte saw Simone's finger on the trigger, saw the war in his face between grief and rage, and the man he used to be before violence consumed him. She stepped between them. "Charlotte." "Don't." Simone gasped. "Shoot him, and you prove your father right," she said quietly. "You become exactly what he wanted, a man so consumed by revenge that you can't see past it. Dragan was a weapon your father used. If you kill him, you're just continuing the cycle. He murdered Vittoria, and you kidnapped me. Should I shoot you for that?" The parallel hit home. Simone lowered the gun, then dropped it completely. It clattered on the floor. He collapsed into a chair, head in his hands, and made sounds Charlotte had never heard from him. Complete, annihilating grief. She held him while he shattered. Dragan stood silent witness. When Simone could finally speak, he looked at Dragan. "Leave. Turn yourself into the authorities. Confess everything. It won't bring her back, but maybe it's something." I will, Dragon said. And Simone, for what it is worth, I am sorry. I have always been sorry. He left. Charlotte heard the helicopter minutes later, carrying the old enforcer toward whatever justice waited. Here's what I need from you right now, and I'm being completely serious. If you're invested in this story, if you've made it this far and you're not subscribed, what are we even doing? Are you just going to ghost me after I've given you all this emotional devastation? Click subscribe. It takes 1 second. Or don't. And just know that I'll be here, wondering why you hate commitment. The days that followed were strange. Simone withdrew into himself, barely eating, spending hours in his study or walking the island alone. Charlotte gave him space but stayed close, a quiet presence. She'd learned something about grief. You couldn't rush it, you could only witness it. On the 5th day, she found him at the small memorial he'd built for Vittoria on the island's eastern shore. Just a simple stone marker overlooking the water. I don't know who I am without the revenge, he said without turning around. For 3 years, it was the only thing keeping me alive, hurting the people I thought killed her. Building power to destroy them. Now I find out it was all a lie. My own father was the monster. What do I do with that? You grieve. You let yourself feel it. Then you decide who you want to become next. And if I don't know how, then you learn. Charlotte sat beside him on the grass. You're not the only one rebuilding an identity. 6 weeks ago, I was a quiet translator who'd never left America. Now I'm the daughter of a crime lord, the sister of a murdered woman I never met. And somehow in the middle of this nightmare, I fell in love with my kidnapper. We're both making this up as we go. Simone finally looked at her. You love me? I really, really don't want to. It's inconvenient and probably unhealthy, and my therapist, when I eventually get one, is going to have a field day. But yes, I don't deserve it. No, you don't. But love isn't about deserving. If it was, none of us would ever be loved. He kissed her then, soft and desperate and grateful. When they broke apart, he said, I need to do something. Will you come with me? Where? To say goodbye. They flew to Sicily the next morning. Tiberius Moretti was in hospice, a medical facility that looked more like a fortress. Even dying, he warranted maximum security. Charlotte was allowed in. Simone waited outside, which felt right somehow. Her father smiled when he saw her. You came back. I needed to ask you something, Charlotte said, sitting beside his bed. Did you love my mother? With everything I had. Tiberius's eyes drifted. Ismeria was light in a dark world. When she told me she couldn't live in my shadow anymore, I let her go, because I loved her more than I loved keeping her. Did you love Vittoria? Like my own heart. When I found out about her, I tried to make up for lost time. She was brilliant, fierce, wanted to change the world. She believed the marriage to Simone could end the war. I supported her because I wanted her to have peace, even if I never would. I wish I'd known her. She would have loved you. Tiberius reached for Charlotte's hand. I'm sorry. For the life you had to live in hiding. For the danger my name brings you. For not being the father you deserved. Charlotte felt tears on her face. I forgive you. Why? Because you loved my mother enough to let her go. Because you gave me a life away from this violence. Because you're dying and I don't want to carry hate into whatever comes next. You're stronger than both your parents, Tiberius whispered. Promise me something. What? Don't let this world make you cruel. Stay soft. It's the only way to break the cycle. Tiberius Moretti died that night, with Charlotte holding his hand. The news spread through Sicily's underworld like wildfire. The old Don was gone. An era ended. At his funeral, something impossible happened. Rinaldis and Morettis stood in the same church, not as enemies, but as mourners. Simone attended, stood beside Charlotte, and when representatives from both families approached, he told them the truth. About his father's lies, about Vittoria's real killers, about the 3 years wasted on misdirected revenge. The peace Vittoria died trying to create finally had a chance. Quick question before we continue, and I really want your honest answer. Do you think Charlotte should have forgiven Tiberius? Was it too easy, or exactly what she needed? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this is the kind of moral complexity that keeps me up at night, and I need to know if you're feeling it too. Back on the island, something shifted. Simone began dismantling the parts of his family business built on violence. It was slow work, dangerous work. There were people who wanted the war to continue, who profited from chaos. But he was methodical, determined to build something different. Charlotte stayed, not as a prisoner, but as a choice she made every morning. She started translating again, working remotely for universities, bringing her quiet work into this loud world. Some days were good. Some days the trauma surfaced and she couldn't breathe, couldn't reconcile loving a man who'd stolen her freedom. On those days, Simone held her and said, "You can leave any time. The door is open." It's always open. But she didn't leave. 3 months after Tiberius's death, Charlotte woke to find Simone packing up Vittoria's room, not destroying it, but carefully boxing everything, preserving it with love but letting it become memory instead of shrine. "What are you doing?" she asked from the doorway, letting her rest. He folded one of Vittoria's dresses with careful hands. "I'll always love her, always grieve her. But she's gone, and I'm still here. And I have a chance at something real with someone who's alive. It feels wrong to keep living in the past. Where will the boxes go? Storage. So if I need to remember, I can. But not in my daily path. Not haunting me." Charlotte helped him. Together they cleared the room, and when it was empty, Simone stood in the center and whispered, "I'm sorry I couldn't save you, Vittoria. I'm sorry I wasted 3 years on the wrong enemy. I hope wherever you are, you've found the freedom you wanted for all of us." Then he closed the door. That evening, they took flowers to the memorial. Charlotte placed hers first. "Thank you for trying to find me, sister. I wish we'd had time. I'll live enough life for both of us." Simone placed his beside hers. "I loved you. I'll always love you. But I'm choosing to live now. I hope you understand." They walked away from the grave, hand in hand. Charlotte asked the question that had been building for weeks. "What happens now?" Simone stopped, turned to face her fully. "I don't know. I'm trying to be better than I was, trying to build something that isn't soaked in blood. It's hard. Some days I fail, but I'm trying." "And us?" He cupped her face gently. "I know I don't deserve you. I know what I did was unforgivable, but if you'll let me, I want to spend whatever time you'll give me earning your trust. Not as your captor, not as someone trying to replace a ghost, just as me, Simone, a deeply flawed man who somehow got a second chance he doesn't deserve." "I can't promise this will work," Charlotte said. "I can't promise I won't wake up one day and realize I need to leave. I know. I can't promise the trauma won't break us. I know. But I'm willing to try, not because you took me, but because I'm choosing you. Every day I stay is a choice. Do you understand the difference?" "Yes. And Charlotte, thank you. For choosing." They kissed there beside the lake as the sun set, two broken people trying to build something whole from shattered pieces. If you're still watching and you haven't subscribed, I have to ask, what more do you need? A personal invitation? A skywriter? I'm out here crafting redemption arcs and complex morality tales, and you can't click one button? I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. Actually, I'm a little mad. 6 months later, Charlotte stood in the empty room that had been Vittoria's shrine. Simone had asked her what she wanted to do with the space. She'd thought about it for weeks. A library, she decided. For translating. For research. A place where I can work. He hired contractors that day. The room was transformed. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a massive desk facing the lake, natural light pouring in. Charlotte's own space earned not given, in a villa that was becoming less a prison and more a home. She still had nightmares sometimes. Still woke gasping, remembering the cathedral, the helicopter, the first weeks of captivity. On those nights, Simone held her and said, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry," and meant it so deeply it hurt. But there were good days, too. Days when they worked side by side, Simone rebuilding his family's reputation, while Charlotte translated ancient texts about mercy and redemption. Days when they laughed. Days when the past felt far away. Dragan wrote from prison. He'd confessed everything, was serving 20 years for Vittoria's murder. His letter to Simone was simple. I hope you find peace. I hope my punishment brings some. Tell Charlotte she was right. Cycles can be broken if someone is brave enough to step out of them. 1 year after Charlotte's abduction, on the anniversary of the day everything changed, Simone took her back to Palermo Cathedral. Why are we here? She asked. Because this is where I took your freedom. I wanted to give you the choice to walk away. Symbolically. If you want to leave, I'll put you on a plane to anywhere you want to go. I'll make sure you're protected, set up with resources completely free, no guilt, no strings. Charlotte looked at the cathedral, remembered the terrified woman she'd been, then looked at Simone, the complicated, damaged, trying man he was. What if I choose to stay? Then we go home. Together. She took his hand. Let's go home. They left the cathedral walking side by side, not as captor and captive, but as two people who'd found each other in the worst possible way and somehow, impossibly, built something real from the wreckage. The final scene, 3 years later. Charlotte in her library, working on a translation. Simone in the doorway watching her with the kind of love that had been earned through time and trust, and choosing each other when it was hard. What are you translating? He asked. Medieval philosophy. A text about how suffering can transform into wisdom if we let it. She looked up, smiled. Seems relevant. He crossed to her, kissed her forehead. I love you. I know. Still inconvenient. Still probably unhealthy. Still true. Any regrets? Charlotte thought about the woman she'd been, quiet and hidden and safe. Thought about the woman she'd become, stronger and scarred and free in ways that had nothing to do with locked doors. Not anymore, she said. You. Only that I didn't meet you a different way. But I'll take this version. I'll take you. However you came to me. Outside, Lake Como sparkled in afternoon sun. Inside, two people who'd started as enemy and prisoner had become partners, lovers, proof that even the worst beginnings could transform into something beautiful if you were brave enough to choose healing over hate. Charlotte returned to her translation. Simone settled into a chair with his own work, and they existed together in comfortable silence, the kind only possible between people who'd seen each other's worst and chosen to stay anyway. The obsidian veil had lifted. What remained was real, messy, hard-won, and completely theirs. One more thing. What would you have done in Charlotte's position at the end? Left or stayed? And if you've made it all the way through this story without subscribing, I genuinely admire your commitment to being a free writer. But seriously, subscribe. There are more stories coming, more moral complexity, more devastating romance, and you're going to want to be here for it. Thanks for listening. If this story wrecked you even a fraction of how much it wrecked me writing it, leave a comment, share it with someone who loves dark romance with actual consequences, And I'll see you in the next one. Until then, choose love, choose healing, and maybe examine why you're attracted to morally gray men. No judgment, mostly.